The studio lights flare to life, and the audience cheers as Kelly Clarkson welcomes her guest, Matthew McConaughey. The show begins with warm banter. Kelly thanks him for coming, mentions his latest projects, and the vibe feels relaxed. But beneath that goodwill lurks tension. Matthew's posture is firm, his face composed yet guarded. Kelly leans in, asking him about life, art, and passion. Everything proceeds smoothly until an unexpected subject arises. At first Kelly asks about his recent statements in the press. Matthew nods, offers careful responses, and seems content. But when Kelly brings up a room or a wine Matthew considers intrusive. Via the mood shifts. The audience senses the energy change, the air crackles, and an unwelcome edge enters the conversation. Kelly cushions the question. "I'm curious about how you respond to this criticism," she says. Matthew's jaw tightens. He answers with a measured tone, deflecting initial jabs, trying to maintain grace. But Kelly presses. She frames the question bluntly, referencing something he allegedly said or did. The live cameras cut to audience reaction. Some shocked faces, some leaned forward interest. Matthew pauses, then exhales sharply. The interviewer's follow-up is sharper than expected, as though she anticipates a dramatic pivot. That pivot comes. Matthew interrupts mid-question, his voice rising, his composure fracturing. The audience gasps. Kelly recoils slightly. The host's smile falters. Matthew says, "Hold on, that's not how it went down," his tone edged with frustration. He elaborates that the statement she cites is taken out of context, that the press twisted it, that he was misquoted. Kelly nods, tries to keep control, pushes to clarify. But Matthew presses harder, accusing certain media outlets, maybe even the show's own production, of chasing sensationalism. The host attempts to moderate, inviting calm, saying we can always revisit that. But Matthew doesn't let up. He demands accountability, challenge after challenge. The energy in the studio grows electric and dangerous. The cameras zoom in on Kelly's face, surprise, discomfort, then determination. She counters, "I'm just asking questions that the public wants answered." Matthew retorts that some lines are unfair, sketchy, manipulative. He rises from his seat, voice raised, his arms gesturing wide. The audience murmurs, the crew stiffens. Kelly's producers glance at monitors. The show's live status complicates any backstage intervention. Matthew's tone turns confrontational. "If you push me like that, expect pushback." Kelly, trying to regain control, raises her voice gently, "We're live, and let's stay respectful." But Matthew is past that point. The shift is stark. Matthew storms to the center of the stage, his presence dominating. He paces slightly, his energy kinetic. He recounts a personal anecdote about integrity, about being misjudged. The audience watches, rapt. Kelly addresses him from the side. "I didn't mean to offend, but you must see why people ask these questions." Matthew's gaze locks on her. "I see the line you crossed." Then, abruptly, he calls her question cheap bait. The crowd gasps. Kelly's composure cracks momentarily. The show appears at risk of collapsing into shouting. Kelly rises, voice trembling just slightly, and says, "I am not your enemy." Matthew stops his pacing and turns. He softens momentarily, but then the frustration returns. He delivers a small monologue, his life, his values, his boundaries. He insists that some questions are off limits and not out of shame, but respect. The host tries to interject, but he holds the floor. The audience watches in tense silence. Kelly swallows, nods, raises her microphone. Matthew towers before her, poised between apology and condemnation. As Matthew continues, his tone becomes reflective. He acknowledges the pressure of fame, that distortion of media cycles, the personal cost of public life. He says he wants to be open, but not exploited. The host listens quietly now. The confrontation shifts from adversarial to existential. Matthew speaks of the trust, boundaries, authenticity. His voice calms, though his eyes still burn. Some in the audience nod, empathizing. Others look uncomfortable. Kelly leans forward. The energy changes again, less aggressive, more raw. Kelly, regaining voice, says, "I hear you. I want to give you space to speak." She asks him to say what he wants people to understand. Matthew takes a breath. He speaks about compromise, misinterpretation, the fragility of words. He calls for compassion, for nuance. He thanks Kelly for allowing him space, though he regrets the confrontation. The cameras catch sweat, flush, tension lines. The crew exchanges glances, some tentatively smile, some hold their breath. The audience breaks into cautious applause. Kelly transitions. Let's turn to something positive. She invites Matthew to share an upcoming project, a film, a book, a cause. The shift is jolting after the prior heat. Matthew accepts gratefully, though his moments of tension linger. He describes work he's proud of, passion projects, his creative process. The audience leans back, relieved. The show's tone recalibrates. The host remarks, "We've been through something real." Matthew nods. The tension doesn't vanish, but it's transformed. They move to lighter questions, stories from the road, favorite songs, childhood memories. The shift soothes the tension. Kelly laughs. Matthew smiles more freely, but shadows of the earlier conflict remain, in the set silence between exchanges, in Matthew's careful voice inflections, in Kelly's watchful eyes. The audience senses the dual reality. They've witnessed fireworks, and now reconciliation. The interview edges toward its close. As the wrap approaches, Kelly asks a final question. After all this, what do you want your legacy to be? Matthew answers softly but firmly about truth, kindness, and doing work he believes in. He thanks Kelly and the audience. Kelly responds with warmth, though perhaps tinged with regret about how the interview unfolded. The cameras pan across the audience, a mixture of relief, admiration, lingering shock. The live credits begin to roll. After the credits, off-camera, the host and guest exchange a brief, private moment. The crew resets, mix lower, lights dim, backstage murmurs ripple, producers whisper, camera operators stretch, floor managers consult. Some audience members stay in their seats, stunned, talking in hushed tones. Social media already flickers with clips. McConaughey erupts. Kelly calls him out. Live show breakdown. The controversy is born. In the days following broadcast, the story explodes online. Clips are shared, dissected, mumped. Talk shows debate whether Kelly overstepped, whether Matthew responded too aggressively. Some praise his courage, others scorn his temper. Interviews follow. Hot takes emerge. The show's ratings spike. The public divides. Fans defend one side, critics another. The hashtag trends. The narrative becomes almost mythic. Journalists dig up past interviews of McConaughey, noting moments when he's spoken out, when he's been vulnerable, when he's been misunderstood. Analysts weigh the impact. Did this set a new standard for celebrity interviews? Did Kelly's approach push too far, or bravely ask hard questions? Did Matthew's response reveal cracks in the polished all right persona? The story reverberates beyond just a talk show confrontation. It becomes a cultural moment about boundaries, fame, truth. Ultimately, the confrontation and reconciliation become part of their public narratives. Kelly may address it later on her show, Matthew may speak in an interview or on social media. The punchy headline, "Matthew McConaughey erupts a broken bar," lingers, but so does the more complicated story underneath, the human desire to be heard, the risk of questions that sting, the way live television can expose raw nerves in the glare of lights. And so the tale of that heated Kelly Clarkson Show appearance becomes more than spectacle. It becomes a moment many will revisit, analyze, and remember long after the credits fade. 16. In the days that followed, Kelly's production team worked overtime to control the media storm. They released an official statement calling the confrontation a spirited exchange between two passionate people. Meanwhile, Matthew's representatives posted a message on his social media, explaining that he stands by his principles and didn't intend to disrespect the host. Yet the internet was already ablaze. Millions of clips circulated across platforms. Reaction videos appeared within hours. Comment sections filled with fans debating who was right and who went too far. Some called the scene authentic television at its best. Others labeled it a meltdown. Whatever the opinion, everyone seemed to have one. The following week, Kelly returned to her show. Viewers tuned in expecting an apology or clarification. She addressed it gently. "We had a passionate moment last week," she said, her voice steady. "That's what happens when conversations get real." She neither blamed nor excused anyone, instead thanking Matthew for showing his truth. The audience applauded. Behind the scenes, however, executives monitored every second, worried about advertisers' reactions. But instead of backlash, ratings soared. People admired Kelly's professionalism under pressure and Matthew's raw honesty. It was chaos, but it worked. Matthew, on his end, took a quieter approach. He appeared on a podcast days later, speaking calmly about the incident. "I got heated," he admitted, "but it came from a place of passion, not anger." The host asked whether he'd return to Kelly's show. He chuckled. "Maybe someday." "We both said our piece." His words struck a chord. Audiences began to view the outburst not as arrogance, but authenticity. Commentators said it reminded them that celebrities are human, flawed, reactive, emotional. His honesty turned damage control into redemption. Meanwhile, fan theories flourished. Some insisted the confrontation was staged to boost ratings. Others believed it was genuine, pointing to Matthew's body language, his shifting tone, and Kelly's unfiltered reactions. YouTubers analyzed the footage frame by frame, highlighting every sigh and gesture. News sites wrote speculative think pieces, the new era of unscripted honesty in daytime TV. Ironically, the supposed scandal transformed into a cultural study on transparency. Both Kelly and Matthew unintentionally became faces of keeping it real. A few days later, Kelly received a handwritten letter at her studio. It was from Matthew. Inside, he thanked her for holding her ground and giving me space to cool off. He explained how he'd felt cornered by constant misrepresentation and how her question, though fair, hit a sensitive spot. Kelly was moved. She read it privately, smiled, and tucked it away. Later that week, she referenced it indirectly on air, saying, "Sometimes, when two people care deeply about truth, sparks fly." But that's how understanding begins. The crowd erupted in applause. The network capitalized on the renewed interest, releasing an extended cut of the interview, including unseen footage where Matthew and Kelly shared a genuine laugh after the cameras were supposed to cut. That extra clip changed everything. Viewers saw humanity rather than hostility. The narrative shifted from eruption to reconciliation. The show's YouTube views tripled overnight. Social media commenters admitted they judged too quickly. Some even called it the most real moment in daytime television history. The episode became legendary. Hollywood insiders couldn't stop talking about it. Industry veterans claimed the episode would change how talk shows approached controversial topics. "It's not about perfect image anymore," one producer said. Audiences crave vulnerability. Soon, other programs started inviting celebrities known for authenticity rather than scandal. Kelly's show saw a new wave of interest from stars who once avoided daytime interviews. Ironically, what began as a heated confrontation birthed a new era of openness in entertainment. Matthew leaned into the renewed attention with unexpected grace. He appeared at a charity event where reporters inevitably brought up the incident. Smiling calmly, he said, "That was a lesson in humility and communication." He used the platform to promote his foundation for youth mentorship, emphasizing emotional literacy and self-expression. "Sometimes we explode," he said to the crowd, "but that explosion can clear the air." The audience applauded, not for scandal, but for sincerity. His words resonated. Kelly invited psychologists and media experts on her show to dissect how moments like hers with Matthew reveal deeper truths about public discourse. They discussed how empathy can turn conflict into understanding, how vulnerability can bridge divides. Viewers loved it. The ratings stayed high, not because of drama, but because of emotional depth. Kelly's handling of the aftermath became a case study in media ethics courses. Producers everywhere took notes. Weeks later, Matthew's publicist reached out privately. He wanted to appear on Kelly's show again, this time to talk about his new project and, maybe, reconciliation. Kelly agreed instantly. The network hesitated but ultimately approved it. It was too good an opportunity to pass up. The build-up was massive. Ads teased. McConaughey returns. The conversation continues. Fans flooded social media with speculation. Would there be another explosion or a heartfelt reunion? The suspense was electric. When the day arrived, the studio audience was buzzing. Kelly greeted Matthew warmly. He hugged her, earning thunderous applause. Gone was the tension, replaced by mutual respect. They spoke openly about growth, communication, and learning from mistakes. Kelly admitted she'd replayed that day many times in her mind. Matthew nodded, saying he had too. But, he added with a grin, I think we both came out stronger. Laughter followed, and the air felt lighter. The chemistry between them was undeniable. During the reunion, they revisited some of Matthew's earlier remarks about integrity and truth. This time, Kelly asked what he'd learned since. He said, that truth doesn't have to be loud to be heard. The audience fell silent, reflecting. Kelly smiled softly and replied, and sometimes, questions don't need to sting to be real. It was poetic symmetry. What had started as confrontation now ended as closure. Cameras captured the genuine smileless of the kind that come only after storms. The episode became one of the most watched in daytime television history. Critics praised both for their courage and maturity. The clip went viral again, but now for entirely different reasons. Fans shared it with captions like growth, forgiveness, and real conversation. The entertainment world marveled at how the two turned conflict into connection. Matthew's reputation soared higher than before. Kelly's credibility as a thoughtful interviewer solidified. Months later, both reflected on the event in separate interviews. Kelly said, it taught me to approach every guest with more curiosity and less caution. Matthew, in another sit-down, remarked, sometimes, fire purifies. We clashed, we cooled, and we understood. They'd both evolved publicly, turning a tense viral moment into a lasting example of empathy and personal accountability. The confrontation that once seemed destructive had, in truth, built something enduring. In the end, that fiery exchange on the Kelly Clarkson Show became more than just a fleeting headline. It became a metaphor for how conflict, when faced with honesty, can lead to growth. People still reference it as a pivotal pop culture moment, a rare time when live television peeled back its polish to show something genuine. Matthew McConaughey and Kelly Clarkson's on-air eruption turned out not to be an end, but a beginning. And as both stars moved forward, their shared moment reminded everyone watching that even the loudest storms can lead to clearer skies.